Going to tie some loose ends. We were talking about electricity the other day, and some things have not been put out there, so I want to talk a little bit about them. Let me start here with the quantum atom, okay? And that's the atom that we have today from quantum mechanics. And what you see there is a little electron blue ball going around the nucleus, and this is more or less the atom we have today, okay? And what's the problem with this atom? Well, this atom has several problems, but I'm going to mention the most important ones for the lecture today, and that is that the electron ball, as you can see, does not fall towards the nucleus or spontaneously fly away. Okay, and so the question is, whoever presents this type of atom has to explain why the electron bead does not fall to the nucleus or fly away spontaneously. And until that is answered, we don't have an atom with which to begin the presentation. Okay, so this is the problem with quantum mechanics. They're atom, okay, for the purposes of electricity. And what's the issue? The issue is that because they use this atom to explain electricity, we end up with this version of electricity. And you can see that the electron beads are just flying from atom to atom, right? And that's the notion that we have today of electricity. This is what is taught in high school and in college. And the question is whether this is a valid version of electricity, the electron beads flowing from atom to atom. Turns out that they've gone a step further and they've gotten rid of the atom altogether, okay? So now they have this, they have the electron beads just moving from atom to atom, and now they've taken the atom out of there, the nucleus, right, and they only have the electron beads. So electricity is simply the flow of electron beads, negative beads that go to the positive pole, in this case of a vacuum chamber. And so the question is whether that is, you know, how Mother Nature runs her shop. Is this a faithful reflection of electricity? That's the question. And yeah, we have a problem because, you know, we have these electron beads. There's no reason for them to be moving towards a positive pole. It's just a description. The theorists say they just do. Okay. That's it. There's no reason, no cause. Okay. They just said they do. Okay, so this is part of the problem. There's no explanation. It's just a description, usually a mathematical description, and they have no justification for it. Okay, so here we have a circuit, okay, and that's what it looks like. Essentially, all the electron beads, the red ones there, they go around to the positive pole, right, of a battery, and they come out of the negative pole. So they have all these electron beads going around. Supposedly the atoms are in place, they don't move, it's just the electron beads that go around. Okay, that's apparently what they propose. If someone proposes something different, please let me know. Okay, and based on this model of electricity, we had good old Albert Einstein, who in 1905 wrote about the photoelectric effect, for which he would win the Nobel Prize in 1921, and that is that light, a bunch of particles also, discrete particles, hits a polished metal surface, and what it does, it compels, it hits, right, the electron beads, the blue ones there, and forces them to move, and that movement of those electron beads is what we call electricity. So the issue here is that all the way till the beginning of the 20th century, we had these notions that both were light as well as electrons are just beads. And the question is whether this has any merit whatsoever. Is this a faithful model of what Mother Nature has out there, or is this totally off the wall? Okay. Okay, what do we propose instead? Just so we have a point of comparison, this is our atom, and you can see the electron is a membrane, that red one there, that encapsulates the proton star, which is the nucleus. Okay, so we have this encapsulating shell, membrane, balloon. And what you see is all the ropes where that convey light converging upon our atom. One thread goes through the center and the other one goes around. The red one in this case, right, just color-coded so that we can make sense of this. The red one goes around and builds the electron shell, okay? And the other one goes straight to the center and builds the proton star. That's it. That's the model. Very simple atom. That's the one we say is the one Mother Nature has. And you might say, well, where did you get this idea that the electron is a ball, a shell, a balloon, a membrane that encapsulates the proton? Well, here I've taken some videos, little clips, that show you how teachers explain these things in the classroom, okay? And what you will see here is that they have these balloons with which they represent the orbitals, supposedly, of what the electron is, okay? And just look at it, it's visual only. Here it goes. These are the p orbitals, and you can see the lady here, she's representing them with balloons. Here's another fellow, and he represents them with balloons. Okay, those are the orbitals, and that's what they look like. And here you have another fellow, he just puts these balloons there. So yeah, this is what people think the orbitals are. They are balloons. And so we're not that far off when we say that, yeah, the electron is a balloon, okay? So, this is what we're proposing. Nothing has changed. Essentially, we're in line with chemistry, saying that, these electrons, not a little bead that moves around. It's a balloon that encapsulates. Now we have a physical object. The bead, in fact, is not even a thing because it's supposedly a point particle, no shape, no size, okay? They say they can't measure that deep, something so small, and so they essentially considered it a point particle, one that has no structure. And again, they're doing physics with non-entities. That's what it ends up being. That's the reality. That's how they explain their theories. Okay, so if the electron is a shell, a balloon, a membrane, right? Not a little bead. Here's our iron atom. Okay, and that's I put iron there because it's a conductor, and that's what we're going to be using primarily for electricity. If you put several iron atoms, like you see there in the center, it builds, these molecules, right, that are all merged with each other. And at the bottom, you see a full strip of these molecules, right, or atoms turned in, that are merged with other atoms, forming molecules, forming these long strips, okay? And what are we going to do with this? Well, here, let me put it in a dynamic mode, okay? Here we see the atom there, again, iron atom, and they form these long strips, and the whole strip, this whole, we can call them serpentines, right, twirls in situ. Okay? It just turns around in situ. Okay? That's going to be electricity. In other words, electricity is not a motion of a little bead that goes from left to right. Electricity is the torsion of merged molecules, long strip of molecules, right, inside the wire, right, the metal, or this is iron in this case, and they're twirling in situ, okay? But they twirl in a given way, and here let me illustrate that so that you can compare the official version against what we're proposing. Okay, here we have at the top we have the electron beads moving all around the circuit, and what we're saying is nothing moves around the circuit. What you have is in situ torsions of these molecules, right? And it's like it's twisted. In other words, it's like a spiral all around the circuit. Okay, so that's what we're proposing is electricity. And yes, you cannot do, under our model, you cannot do electricity without atoms, without merged atoms. In fact, they have to be connected. They all have to be connected as a series, right? And they twirl in situ and in a spiral motion. So they go like this, more or less. And yeah, Mother Nature doesn't understand positive or negative. Mother Nature understands clockwise and counterclockwise, okay? Because Mother Nature just moves objects around every day. She works with objects. She never went to school. She doesn't know anything about math, okay? So you can't tell her, look, this is positive and that's negative. This is North Pole, this is South Pole, because she doesn't understand what that is, okay? We've invented those labels, and those labels have no physical interpretation. We are now giving a physical interpretation. We're saying all these years they've been talking about clockwise and counterclockwise. And of course, if you take any elongated entity and you troll it, right, from your end it goes, for example, right now I'm looking at it from my point of view, it's going clockwise. From your point of view, it's going counterclockwise, right? And at the other end, hopefully the opposite is true. So if it's going clockwise here, it's going counterclockwise over there, or vice versa, right? So that explains why, we have two poles, positive and negative. One is clockwise, the other end had better be counterclockwise, okay, or vice versa. Okay, and here we can see with magnets, okay, this is our version of magnets, okay, you have positive versus negative. In other words, you have North Pole versus South Pole. When you put two poles together, like in this case, we put blue against blue, whatever that is, north, north, south, south, whatever, you can see why the threads that swing around push each other away. They attract each other when they both are clockwise at the top, counterclockwise at the bottom, or vice versa, right? When you turn them around, you have clockwise versus counterclockwise, and now they push each other away. Okay, so the mechanism is there. A field is made of lines of force. The lines of force are real. They are threads of the ropes that are swinging around. Okay, so that's our version of magnetism, and it's got to do with clockwise, counterclockwise. And people say, well, Bill, where'd you get this crazy idea that a field is made of real lines of force, and those real lines of force are actually threads from the ropes and from the atoms? And here's a good evidence for those who want to be convinced through evidence, okay? We don't do that in science, we just conceptualize, but people want evidence and proof and whatever. And here it is, you can see this is a magnet that's underwater, and it's in very, very slow motion. But what you can see is that all the iron filings, as soon as they put the magnet in there, inside that little tube, as soon as they put that magnet in there, all the iron filings are gradually, you can see it's a gradual thing, right? Gradually approaching the magnet. Something is moving in that region and pulling all these little iron filings towards the magnet. And what we're saying is what we have there is an invisible field. What is the field made out of? Lines of force. Those lines of force are threads that are swinging around, pulling the irons filings towards the magnet. Okay, so we have a reason to propose this as a hypothesis that what you have is ropes, atoms, and the swinging around of these threads, not ropes, but the threads, right? People confuse the thread with the rope. These are two different things. The threads swing around. When they swing around, if they hit each other, right, they push each other away. If they go in the same direction, both of them clockwise or counterclockwise, then as one comes down, the other one comes up and pulls. So we have attraction and we have repulsion. That's it. That's how simple Mother Nature is. That's how simple magnetism is.